Before we get started, I'd like to thank Gaahleri for sending me their Mobius 0.2mm airbrush to try out on this project. We'll get into the specifics a little bit later once we get to the painting part of this video, but for now all I'll say is that Gaahleri is holding an annual Black Friday event where they've got some pretty great prices on their airbrushes. So if you've been thinking about picking one up, now is the perfect time to do that. As always, links are down in the description. But that'll do it for now, let's go ahead and get to the video. Dreadnoughts are one of the most identifiable parts of 40k. The idea of taking an already gen-enhanced warrior and sticking him into a robot suit with enough armaments to rival a main battle tank is kinda cool. But even that is just the beginning. Go deeper down this Dreadnought-shaped rabbit hole and you'll find wizard Dreadnoughts, psychotic hell Dreadnoughts, even chaos demon-possessed Dreadnoughts. With so many types of Dreadnoughts, it makes sense that some of them have kind of slipped through the cracks, becoming footnotes compared to the line of Dreadnoughts that we have current access to on the tabletop. I've already brought one of these deceased Dreads back from the dead in my Blood Angels Librarian Dreadnought, but he's looking a little bit lonely. So welcome to Gone Hollow Minis. My name is Colt, and today we'll be resurrecting the Sonic Dreadnought of the Emperor's Children. Okay, first things first, what is a Sonic Dreadnought? Well, like it says on the tin, it's a Dreadnought armed with Sonic weapons. In particular, its main armament is a dual-linked Blastmaster on the right arm. When it comes down to it though, it just is the logical conclusion of sticking a Noise Marine into a Dreadnought. A good mix of that over-the-top Slaneshi decoration with the obvious need for massive speakers or other form of acoustic artillery. But let's talk models. There's only ever been one Sonic Dreadnought model as far as I can tell, a big brick of Forge World resin from 2003. It was based off of the standard Castroferrum, or Ferrum and Furnace, pattern box knot. Like most of Forge World, especially of that era, it's been discontinued since. To add to the issue, there's really not a datasheet in the Emperor's Children Codex that provides us an easy proxy. We don't get Hellbrutes or anything for some reason, so the only other option we have on a 60mm base is the Demon Prince. And then the one with wings is just way too big for a Dreadnought, so let's focus on the foot-slogging one for now. That's a little better, but I don't think the box knot is going to cut it this time. Instead, I want to try using a Contemptor Dreadnought. This takes us a lot closer to Demon Prince size, while still being recognizably a Dreadnought. And the Contemptor is just a really cool kit, so there's that too. Okay, let's get started. The first thing I completed was actually the head, mainly because I had a picture of this in my head and wanted to see if I could actually do it. I want to take inspiration from the current Noise Marine helmets to visually tie everything together. Starting with a standard Contemptor head, I started by scraping down some of the face grill. It was just too reasonably sized. Instead, I replaced it with the mouthpiece of a Knight Armiger. This took some sanding and trimming, followed by more sanding, but eventually I got it where I wanted it. With that done, I could work on sculpting the rest of the head. The new Noise Marines have these weird, almost organic looking helmets, with sculpted brows and kind of bulging eye lenses. So I did my best to recreate that, shamelessly hiding a lot of my crimes behind the fact that the head gets recessed pretty far back into the torso. This was kind of the litmus test for this project. I like picking one identifiable but more or less self-contained part of the Kitbash to work on first. This helps me set the tone for the project, and can help me adjust my approach, aesthetic, or end goal. With the head looking good, I moved on to the next most recognizable part of the build, the big old twin-linked Blastmaster. To give me the base for the weapon, I decided to start with the dual Volkite option. This looks the closest to the standard Blastmaster and gives us enough room to make some alterations. Obviously, the most important change is the front of the weapon. All Sonic weapons have this kind of Vox Grill looking thing going on, so replicating that is a must. Problem is though, I've only gotten one box of Noise Marines so far, so I don't have a pair of extra Sonic Blaster bits that look the same. Instead, I turned to the Demon Prince kit. I built mine with wings, so I still had parts left over from the standard backpack. Luckily, the vents on this part are little skulls with vent grills in their mouths, basically perfect for what we're doing here. So I trimmed the skulls away from the fleshy backpack parts, sanded them nice and even, and trimmed away some of the sides so they would fit correctly on the ends of our Volkite weapons. This is also the point where I learned that the vent portions of a Demon Prince's backpack aren't exactly the same size. They're close, and I don't think you'd notice unless you were really looking for it, but still, it was kind of annoying. After that, it was just a matter of adding greebles. Some spare infractor backpack sections on each side, extra tubes from the Centurion kit, and the kind of guitar blade looking thing at the back, like the Blastmasters and Sonic Blasters have. The other weapon took a little bit of work before I could fit it onto the build, so we'll come back to that later. For now, I had another idea that I wanted to try, and not gonna lie, this was kinda the idea that made me want to do this project in the first place. I wanted to give this guy a big organ rack on his back. Originally, I was just gonna use styrene rod, but that didn't feel on brand enough. So instead, I scrounged through my bit bin and sprue boxes until I found matching pairs of las cannons of different sizes. I trimmed these all down to the right size, sanded and shaped the bottoms to fit the Contemptor's curved top plate, and stuck them on in a vaguely pipe organ-y looking pattern. The idea of an organ rack made of las cannon barrels is goofy, but not gonna lie, goofy stuff like this is kind of the reason I signed up for this faction. Right, now the left arm. I wanted to give this guy a big Slanesh Scourge, using some leftover Mauler Fiend bits. Using all three was a bit much though, so I trimmed down just 2 of them to fit snugly in the wrist socket of the left arm. After that, it was just a matter of adding some extra bits and decorations. I found a great STL pack by Hydra Workshop that I've used in a few projects now, and those bits fit right in. I also spent a bit of time on some green stuff work, mainly a stretched skin flap thingy on the right pauldron and some trim for the left, leaving us with this. Maybe it's not the most extensive kitbash, but I think it gets the point across. The Twin Blastmaster turned out well, I think, and the big pipe organ rack really caps it off. But that's enough building. Let's get to painting. If you remember a while ago, the Emperor's Children Army project was one that I tried to force myself to learn how to airbrush, and I think I've come quite a ways since then. So when Gaahleri reached out to me and wanted to send me an airbrush to try on one of the projects, I knew it would have to be an Emperor's Children model. This is Gaahlerie's Mobius model, with a 0.2mm nozzle. That's the finest nozzle that I've personally worked with, so let's see what it can do. Side note on the packaging first though, 2 things I really appreciate. Firstly is that you get a handful of extra O-rings. If you've used an airbrush, you know how finicky those O-rings can be, so it's a massive help to get a few extras in case of emergency. Also worth noting is that the Mobius comes with an air compressor quick connect already attached, which is great because I could literally just swap out my old airbrush for this one and get to painting. Finally, the lid to the box has an exploded view of all the airbrush's components. You probably won't need to know all of these for cleaning, but a nice, easy to reference image is great to have on hand. But let's get to painting and I'll talk about this airbrush and my thoughts on how it handles. Firstly, I wanted to see how it could handle priming. Even with it being a 0.2mm nozzle, Gaahleri boasts that it can handle priming as well as detail work. So getting the obligatory coat of Pro Acryl Black Primer on, I can say that, yeah, the coverage works well for priming too. Mechanically, the area of coverage still lets you prime quickly enough despite the smaller nozzle. One thing to keep note of though is that you do need to keep your paint very, very thin so you don't get dry tip or clogging. Thinner than you may be used to with a 0.35mm nozzle, like I was. This isn't an issue for detail work, as it kind of forces us to spend more time on our layering. But priming did take quite a few layers to get a decent enough coat on to where I was confident the primer was strong enough. After our black primer, I'm going to hit the whole model with Pro Acryl Dark Purple as our first base coat. This will also set up some of our shadows, but I've found that it's easiest just to hit the whole model. And that brings us to one of the first things about this airbrush that I really noticed and enjoyed, and that's the plain feel of it. It's a bit heavier than some of the airbrushes that I've used in the past, which really helps it sit in your hand nicely. That and the trigger at the top has a really nice contour to it. Maybe I just hold my airbrushes weird, but I've noticed that some triggers on some airbrushes have kind of sharp edges that start to chafe at my fingertips over long painting sessions. The Mobius's though feels a lot more natural and a lot more comfortable. Again, a huge help for longer painting sessions. But after our dark purple is on, we can get to work on our layers. I'm going to start with Pro Acryl Royal Purple, one of the best kind of medium purple paints that I've found. I'm just applying this to the upward surfaces, functioning as my mid-tone. And now that we're getting into finer, more controlled layers, I can show off another part of the Mobius that I've really enjoyed. This little nut back here actually serves a really important role. You can see as we tighten it that it actually limits how far back we can pull our needle. On a dual action airbrush like this, that means the tighter we make this, the less paint we'll be able to spray. This is fantastic for detail work, especially these narrow, high highlights where we really don't want to accidentally spray too much and overdo our highlight. It sounds simple, and I guess it is, but it's a really nice feature to see and comes in very handy. Now once I had my final highlight, my purple armor was most of the way there. Just some chipping to take care of and of course the other hand-painted details. But I've shown off my recipes for details like that 100 times already, so I wanted to give some more final thoughts on the Mobius before we get to the final miniature. Something that's important for every painter to be able to do is disassemble their airbrush for cleaning, knowing where everything actually goes so that they can address clogs and issues themselves. There are 2 things that I noticed while tearing down my Mobius. Firstly, it appears there was some manufacturing damage on the part labeled the main lever adjustment knob. I haven't noticed it affecting performance at all. The threads still work fine and everything seals properly, but it was something that I noticed. And finally, it appears like the O-ring around the paint cup is actually installed into the airbrush instead of into the cup. Maybe it's just because I'm used to airbrushes where this is swapped, but I was a little worried about this catching paint more here as opposed to being on the cup. No issues with it so far, but maybe another thing I'll be keeping my eye on going forward. Other than that though, I really did have a blast with this airbrush. If you're looking for an airbrush that's able to punch above its weight with the ability for large scale coverage or fine scale detail, I really would recommend looking into Gaahhleri's Mobius. Or if not the Mobius, I have heard good things about their other models, even if I haven't gotten to try them personally. As always, the links are in the description for you to take a peek for yourself. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, Gaahleri is actually holding a Black Friday event going on right now, at least as of the posting of this video. So if this video got you curious about how their airbrushes handle, there is no better time to pick one up than right now. But it's about time that I stop teasing you and show you all how this Sonic Dreadnought actually came out. This Kitbash was a long time coming. I've had the idea in my head for a while now, but wanted to make sure I had my color scheme nailed down first. I'm really coming around to the purple on burgundy look. I'm calling my warband the Saccharine Saints, and I think the layering of two really rich colors gets the point across well. Plus, it makes me think of Costco fruit snack packages from when I was a kid, which definitely were on the sweeter side of kid snacks. But back on track, I really did enjoy seeing what the Mobius could do on this model. The Contemptor is a great kit with a lot of interesting geometry, and the Mobius handled it like a champ, even with all the greebles and junk that I slapped on top of it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and another massive thank you to Gaahleri for sending me their Mobius airbrush to try out on this project. If you're looking to get into airbrushing or just need a new tool for your tool bench, I really do recommend checking out the Mobius. I've had a ton of fun with it so far, and it really impressed me with all that it can do. And again, especially with that Black Friday event going on right now, there are some really great prices if you are tempted. I would definitely recommend. The links, as always, are in the description. But that'll about do it for today, folks. If you have any questions or feedback, make sure to drop a comment. Leave a like while you're down there, subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss an episode, it really does help us channels out. And until we meet again, friends, be safe, be kind, and don't you dare go hollow.